I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, and I'm back to review another figure in the Jurassic World Hammond collection. This time, it's the Velociraptor. The first question we must answer is which movie this raptor hails from. After all, the raptors have appeared in every Jurassic movie, and they've always looked a little bit different each time. I feel confident in saying that this is a first-generation raptor for 3 reasons. First, it's clearly not blue, the only raptor in the Jurassic World trilogy who matters. Second, it's clearly not a Jurassic Park 3 raptor because it lacks the nasal crests and feather mohawk. Finally, we can rule out the Lost World because the first movie's logo is prominently displayed on the box in 2 places, and the accompanying photo is a familiar promo image associated with the original. Ergo, I feel confident in saying this is an OG Velociraptor, and I approve of that decision. Now let's see if I approve of the figure itself. Like the Baryonyx, and presumably every other dinosaur in this line, the raptor comes with the tail detached. Unlike the Baryonyx, the tail goes in much easier, with no rotating or excessive finagling required. Once fully assembled, the figure is able to stand in a neutral pose, but only if it's completely neutral. Just a smidge too far forward and she'll faceplant. In terms of detail, the figure is mostly accurate. The overall profile captures the streamlined appearance of the film raptor nicely, and the texture of the skin has the right balance of scaly and leathery. The circular fossil logo is once again stamped on the bottom of the right foot, allowing for branding without being disruptive. Color, meanwhile, is a bit different from what it should be. In the movie, the raptors are a predominantly tree bark brown that gets lighter on the underside. This raptor is a sort of charcoal brown on top, but then becomes brownish green on the sides and belly. It's not the color we see in the movie, but it's not a bad look on its own. The darker portions on the back form patterns, and as far as I can see, it looks symmetrical on both sides. The eyes are also painted evenly and convey an appropriate sense of menace. The joints are incorporated smoothly and organically into the body. They're visible without being obtrusive and lend themselves well to the overall look of the figure, again like on the Baryonyx. The raptor has 14 points of articulation, and once again, all but the jaw are uninhibited. The raptor's limbs can twist and bend any number of ways for any number of poses. In fact, they move a bit easier than the Baryonyx's limbs, and I didn't accidentally pop anything out of its socket this time around. Fortunately, easier movement does not mean looseness of joints. Put her in a pose and she'll hold it with no trouble at all. There's also a wire in the tail to allow for bending, though it doesn't go all the way to the end, leaving a bit over an inch free. Unfortunately, this figure is not entirely film accurate, and I'm not just talking about the paint. There are 3 sculptural choices made that affect the overall look. First and most noticeable is the size of the feet. Look at these stills grabbed straight from the first movie. These give us a clear look at what raptor tootsies look like in these films. Note how small they are, how narrow, with the toes usually kept together, almost as if the raptor is tiptoeing through the kitchen. The Hammond collection figure, on the other hand, is practically a Sasquatch by comparison, possessing long feet with toes spread wide. If I had to guess, this difference might be one of necessity. I remember the original Kenner toys kept the narrow feet, and while that was film accurate, it also meant the figures couldn't stand very well on their own. Larger feet lend themselves better to keeping a figure upright without a base to attach to, so this probably had to be done. I can excuse the feet, but I can't excuse the hands. It's a bit harder to tell in these shots, but the raptor's hands in the movies had a long middle finger between 2 flanking fingers that matched each other. There was a tiny bit of webbing, but nothing to write home about. On this figure, though, a major liberty is taken. Now the innermost fingers are drastically shortened, making them look almost like thumbs. Unlike the feet, this serves no practical purpose necessary for the figure to function, so I have no idea why this was done. If it was added based on real-life fossil discoveries, that doesn't really matter because this figure is based on the movie raptors, not real-life raptors, so it should have stuck to that original design. Lastly, there's the jaw, which is the weakest part of the whole figure. When closed, it's just a bit too long, jutting out past the upper jaw when it should be even with it. Inside, the teeth, which are separated from the lips by a gap that's just too wide, form a very narrow triangle on top of which is painted the tongue, and it doesn't really look right. Compare this to the inside of the Baryonyx's mouth, where the tongue and teeth are separate, and it looks perfectly natural when it's closed. It feels like corners might have been cut on this part of the figure, which is a shame. Since these raptors are best viewed from the side, this issue with the jaw unfortunately affects the profile in a bad way. And finally, let's talk about size. The Velociraptor is smaller than the Baryonyx, which means they're to scale with each other. This at least means that they look good side by side, and presumably this scaling is present in the rest of the line. The smaller size does make the raptor a bit more fragile, though. The thin arms are especially soft and pliable, though it would probably still take a considerable effort to permanently warp or break them. So what's the final verdict? Unfortunately, the Velociraptor is not as good as the Baryonyx, which is too bad since she's the dinosaur with a greater legacy in this series. That's not to say it's a terrible figure aside from the jawline, but in terms of accurately recreating the creature as it appears on film, it just doesn't work as well as the Baryonyx does. Maybe it's because of how small she is, or maybe it's just an anomaly in the line, but whatever the case, she's not quite up to par. At the moment, these are the only two Hammond collection figures I've got, so I don't know which one better represents the line as a whole. I just hope it's not the Raptor. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. There are actually 3 Velociraptors in this video. The other 2 are lurking off to either side of you, just waiting for the opportunity to strike. Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books, Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.